Hello everyone, it's Becky here from Ivy's Corner, and I am excited today to take you through another little mini tangle, little mini mono tangle. In front of me here I have a 2" by 2" square tile which I've self-cut from some Fabriano Tiepolo paper. I have a Micron PN with me, a Zentangle pencil and my trusty tortillon also. And so today I thought I would just draw one of my favourite tangles, Zentangle HQ pattern, which I always come back to. I find it's one of my favourites to draw. It appears in a lot of the project packs if you follow along with the videos there. But I thought for anyone who maybe hasn't drawn it before, I would do a little quick run through of the Tangle Pokeroot. So this is a kind of classic tangle that the HQ team often revisit in project packs and things, and one I personally find to be a really fun one to draw and a really lovely way to fill space on my tile. So I'm going to just zoom in slightly for you here because it's quite a small tile, so I thought I would zoom in nice and close. I'm not going to draw a string or anything. I'm just going to go ahead and fill some of this white space here with my lovely Pokeroot. Now, Pokeroot is quite organic tangle, so it is one that is kind of grows naturally across your tile, and it's a fun one to draw, as I said, to fill in spaces. So I'm going to just start by doing a little sort of a gentle curve, a gentle C curve, and then I'm going to aura that. So aura along next to my little C curve, so I've got a little kind of stalk, if you will, and I'm going to do another C curve just over the top there to cap it off, like a little upside down smiley face. And then once I've done that, I'm going to kind of apply my hollyboard technique here, and I'm going to draw a large rounded orb that's going to tuck behind my stem that I drew initially. So starting here, it's going to come up and round and then stop at a similar kind of place to the where I started on the other side. And that is your basic Pokeroot sort of berry. Now, you can continue to grow these, so anywhere around here you can draw another little stem, coming a different way this time maybe, and then cap it off, and then taking your big orb-shaped line around there, and then just continue in that way. And this is kind of an interesting thing because this is what when we talk about pattern in Zentangle, things don't always have to be the same. Repeating lines are absolutely identical. A pattern is a pattern whether the lines are all identical or not in terms of the way that they repeat. And this is a kind of a repeating pattern, but not in the same way as having it like the same lines all the time. So you'll see here this time I've decided to do a little double stem. So I'm going to cap this one off. It's going to jump up in front, and then this one's going to tuck behind a little more. So you can have a play around and grow them in any way that kind of works for you. You can grow more than one off of a little stem. You can make some larger and some smaller. I would recommend not going too teeny tiny with your Pokeroot, because if you do, you might find that it's harder to shade. So the smaller your space is, the trickier it's going to be for you to shade them. If you have a lot of very, very small spaces, then a lot of your space is going to kind of end up filled with graphite, and if things are very small, they can be a bit trickier to kind of shade meaningfully. Obviously, if you wanted to shade the whole thing as it's one sort of texture, then that's absolutely fine. But if you want to add differing elements of shade to your Pokeroot, then you probably don't want them to be too small. So I'm going to just grow a few more here and there. And obviously, like filling any size spaces that you have left, like there's a space here, I'm going to just do one in here, but obviously I won't be able to draw the full Pokeroot. It's going to be an idea of a Pokeroot. So I'm going to place the lines where I think you'd be able to see them. And just by adding those few lines, it's filled that whole space there. So it's a very dynamic, very useful tangle. I'll just do a little baby one over here. There we go. So there is my little collection of Pokeroot all together on my tile. I'm going to cap my pen and I'm going to grab my pencil and just do some shading. So there's a few different ways that you can shade this. You can go, depending on how large your Pokeroot are and how much of an area you're covering, I suppose, you can add a little bit of graphite either side of your stem like this, or you can go in and just add the graphite underneath that C curve. So both of those work quite nicely, and you can combine them too. The other thing that I would suggest is just adding a touch of graphite anywhere where kind of your Pokeroots come in front of the ones behind them. So anywhere where there's Pokeroots that are falling back and falling behind, you can kind of come around the edges of them, and it's just going to give you that element of layering and kind of dimension. So maybe that's just, even if it's just the stalks where they drop behind other ones, you can add a spot of ink. I'm going to go through and just add a little more into all of my C curves here at the tops, like so. And then obviously come in with your tortillon and you can soften some of the graphite that you've placed. So I would avoid kind of filling the whole orb part of the Pokeroot with graphite, because you want to make sure that there is some white space retained. As ever with shading, we want to retain some highlights. So if everything is shaded, then nothing is shaded. So we want to make sure that there are highlights there to kind of emphasize the shadows, as it were, if that makes sense. So just popping a little bit of softening on all of those areas of shading. And then I'm going to also just pop another little kind of C curve, sort of smiley face, as it were, around. And I'm using just the residual graphite on the end of my tortillon. You can go in with your pencil if you want to, but I'm just adding a couple of little curved sections, I suppose. There's an area there that I didn't really shade. But yeah, just using the residual graphite on your tortillon works really well here, because it gives you a slightly more subtle shadow. But just adding this little curve really does emphasize the dimension that you're able to achieve with these circular shapes, and it gives them that roundness and that feeling of depth as well, and makes them look a little shiny. So there you go, that is your Pokeroot. I hope you enjoyed that tangle. It's one I always find myself coming back to regularly. It's a super fun one to draw and to fill lots of space. So I hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you next time. Don't forget to hit subscribe and like this video if you enjoyed it. You can also follow a lot more of my other mini tangles that I draw on the same playlist. But I'll see you next time.